Then you have to become an ESL teacher. I did. I didn't know how to teach English. I knew how to teach Spanish. Yo hablo español, puedo enseñar español, pero no puedo enseñar inglés. My husband, I'm also an ML student, an ML person, because my husband's from India, and I learned panel when I was in high school, in college. And I went to India, and I became, now that's my country, that we have a home there, a home here. But it was hard, I couldn't express myself sometimes. And anyway, I learned Tamil, and it was like a long time ago, because I'm not going to say how old I am, but I'm older than 33, because that's obviously. And I was, this pigmentation and this hair, and I would speak in Tamil, and literally people would pass out. And the kids would hide behind trees, it was so awesome. Now I go there and not noticed at all. But anyway, because times have changed. But some things came to mind. Number one, do you know what CREER etymology is? And there's my etymology buddy right there that we met yesterday. That's what we have in common. The etymology of CREER is Proto-Italic, I think that's how you say it, and it is to place your heart. To place your heart somewhere. Okay. And so I'm going to be myself and place my heart in front of you, be very vulnerable. But if we want to impact policy, we have to do what they were talking about. We have to find out what works. And I could speak to a million different things to our program, and maybe Maria can ask me a question to prompt me to do that later. But I want to tell you a case study from a rural school. His name is Bernardo Ortega. Bernardo Ortega was a first grade student, and he was being referred and was getting ready to be retained. I was the only one at that time who could see his intelligence, because I spoke both languages. He was a Spanish speaker. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So what I was doing was showing his teacher everything he could do. So one of the big takeaways I hope you have is can do. So Bernardo was writing a paper, and I had them to brainstorm their spellings over here so I could do an authentic assessment. What is their brain thinking? What are they hearing? Blah, blah, blah. So I told them to write a funny story. They had to have punctuation, and they had to make their teacher laugh. The rubric, basically. And so I saw this picture of a bat in a diaper, and I'm like, oh, he's got that. Yay, that's awesome. But his writing was great. But he was spelling over here, and so I had conversations with my students to get inside their heads. So he spelled the word D or B. B-A-N-G-S. I wish I had brought a slide. And I thought he was trying to say dance. It was B-A-N-S. And I'm like, oh, the bat is dancing, So can you tell me what that word is? And he said, dance. And I said, can you use that in a sentence? He said, like them things over there. So when we're talking about rural, the language that is coming out of the mouth does not match the language in the books or on the worksheets. And I'm like, you spelled that correctly. Because the D is a B reversal, that's developmental, no big deal. He spelled things. Y'all give him a round of applause. So that's when I learned mistakes are miracles. Right? And that's my slogan. So one thing is can do. Look at everything that they can do. We have gone back to rural schools and just told teachers to circle all the things they get right on the test and have a conversation with the child. Different child after that. Total. We have rearranged schools that way. Well, with Bernardo, oh my goodness, I can tell you so much. But I really learned, and I would go in. I'm also an ELD standards team member for the state. So I feel like I'm the spectrum, because Monday I'm going to go back into the classroom, and when I grow up, I'm going to be a consultant. I want to go out and help rural communities, do the right thing. So long story short, I followed, first of all, because we were doing these best practices, Bernardo was not referred, and he was not retained because they could see his intelligence. So I followed him. 8th grade, he writes this amazing reflection on his writing, and it was like, I use metaphors and similes, but that's just me. It was like so awesome. I came across it one day somehow looking in folders, so I collected that. I'm creating a case study, and I've been presenting this at the state level forever. A lot of people in North Carolina know Bernardo. Well, somebody said, what if you found him? What if you could find him and get his voice, to speak to us? And I'm like, that would be so amazing. So 2 days later, I get a Facebook message. I didn't start looking for him, I had been looking for him forever, but couldn't find him on Facebook. 2 days later, I get a Facebook message, and it's from a woman, and she says, my name is Marcela Ortega. I don't know if you remember me, Miss Oz, but I'm Bernardo Ortega's sister. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she said, someone with the name Doss emailed me this week from First Citizens Bank. Do you know them? And that was my husband. It was like so miraculous. And so I met Bernardo. And when I looked him up on Facebook, his name's not Bernardo on there, it's Bernie. He was at the top of one of the Dubai hotels. He's like at the CEO level of a company. Or maybe I'm saying that wrong. But do you see what I'm painting a picture of here? Yes. From Bernardo referred to Dubai. Okay, because I don't know what Dubai is, but he travels all over the world. So I'm going to kind of leave you with that. Number 2 is we have just developed a program in Harnett County that's getting roots. Not everybody believes in it. And that is, if we can there's a pyramid that says, if a student teaches someone else, they remember 90% of the information. I believed in that. And so I would take a student who was struggling, we would get information that nobody else knew, and they would teach it, and immediately perceptions were changed. So we have a teacher leader program. This year, Mariana and some of her teachers, they actually did a field trip where their middle school teachers went to an elementary school and taught the elementary kids in a day. I have to give credit to that idea for Mariana. But there was a middle school student who was checked out. He is identified ADHD and a lot of other things, and he was ML. And we just had him rehearse a text to read to second graders at another school. Totally different child. Increased grades. That costs $0. That's all I'm saying. And then one of the last things I'll say, because your questions will prompt us, is if we don't know best practices, money doesn't matter. And it's got to be a marriage of Bill Gates, maybe, and training centers in rural areas. I can see it now in my imagination, where teachers come to learn for free, and students come to, do things that work for free. But I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I just wanted to share that case study. And let us remember that CREER means to, where you place your heart. And also I have to say, we've got to be careful not to dislike the ones who are not treating our students properly. Because we want them to love students who are not acting properly, And so it's how can we negotiate our differences? We are doing it in training by simulation. The teachers come in, they self-discover the truth about kids. We simulate them, like you were saying, let them take a walk in the shoes of our ML students. So I want to be a consultant when I grow up, and I'll do it for free. You know what I'm saying? I just want to have that expertise to share with rural communities. So thank you very much.